So before starting the discussion, let me give you an overview of GE Vernova. GE Vernova is a purpose-built company, a legacy of General Electric, which has been manufacturing airplanes and turbines, among many other wonderful manufactured devices, for more than 100 years. Our mission as GE Vernova is to help the world electrify and decarbonize, and we take this mission very seriously. That's why, with the Prophecy portfolio, we help manufacturers save energy, waste less, optimize their operations, and improve their processes thanks to digitalization. We are present all over the world with partners and more than 20,000 customers globally, representing a large variety of industries from automotive and discrete to food and beverage, chemicals, and process manufacturing. That's this variety of industries covered with deep knowledge expertise in the manufacturing world that allow us to partner with our customer, and that's what makes us different. And with this idea of sharing our expertise more broadly, we have started the monthly encounters with manufacturers labeled Coffee with an Expert. Next. A Coffee with an Expert is a monthly meeting series, 30 minutes every month to discuss digital manufacturing and smart factories with our GE experts. It's our schedule for 2024. That is about to end, but feel free to register for the replays or for the next session using the QR code below. Next. So last month, if you have been with us, we have discussed methodologies for complex multi-site developments. And today, as a part 2, we will be focusing on one key component of a successful project execution, the testing, the tests. Why it is so important, and now to make it the most effective. So today, joining us, we have Miroslav Piniak from our professional services team, and he will be our expert for this session titled Project Execution, Automated Quality Assurance Benefits. Miroslav, over to you.
Thank you very much, Magali. So let me introduce myself a little bit. I'm the Technical Service Director here in Professional Services in GE, and my team is composed of technical leads and professional project experts. And our job is to deliver an MES solution, and that includes configuration, implementation, but also collaboration with a customer to actually deliver a value or what they actually need. So let me jump to an agenda. And today, since we are talking about the quality assurance, I will go through with you a little bit about what are the challenges that we have during the project delivery. And then I will introduce to you a BDD. BDD is a way how to tackle those challenges. Part of the BDD, it's a word or a language called Gherkin. We will see a little bit how it looks like, what it does. Then a live demo, just to know that we are doing something real in here. And further after, we will have a question that you can ask, and we will make sure we can answer them in the best way. So next slide. Project delivery challenges. I have reused this slide from the previous presentation that was led by my colleagues Andrea, but just to show you and maybe give you a little very small overview what professional services does. So here in execution of project, and here we are talking MES project because this is 90% of our daily job. We go through design with the customer. We implement or configure the solution using our GE products. We do the build, and then we have a test part. After the testing, of course, if everything works as expected, we do the deploy to customer. And today we will mainly talk about the testing. Okay, testing is just one word of a quality assurance. But what is important, what is the difference that we do? We don't do only manual testing, but we do an automated test. Why do we do automated tests? There are pretty obvious reasons, but I have listed some of them. Main is cost savings or cost reduction. We know that building automated tests takes a little bit of time, so the initial investment is there, which is higher, but it saves money when we are running a project that lasts 2-3 years. In long term, it's a definitely cost saver. With automated tests, we get faster feedback, so we are not dependent on humans when they can run the test. So automated test can run overnight, can run every day, can run as soon as we have the implementation done. It also improves accuracy because automated tests are very consistent and repeatable. Whether humans, when they are doing manual tests, they depend on many other variables that might not be easy to handle. Resource allocation. Using automated test or building automated test, we can use our resources more on the design or build part or a deployment or other added value tasks. Comprehensive reporting, which is one of the main and important way of knowing what is working, what is not. It's pretty simple when we have a small set of tests, even for manual testing, but it's really difficult to have a very good reporting when we start talking about complex scenarios in MES, hundreds of different scenarios. For that, automated testing tool give us a very good reports and logs and make it easier to track the progress. So this was really very high level about testing. There is nothing exceptional, nothing new, but in the next slide, we will talk a little bit more about the challenges. It's very difficult to realize, but I have put the quote here because I like it a lot. That the hardest single part of building a software is not really coding, it's deciding what to build. And especially in our daily work, where we are talking about customer requirements, we see that they are not always defined in a perfect manner. One reason is because the people on the customer side are not really an IT people. They know most of their business processes, so they are able to describe it, but not enough. It's a very similar thing with the customer acceptance criteria, right? To have a good quality, we need to know what is expected, what is the acceptance criteria for a functionality. And very often we encounter a customer that will give us the acceptance criteria when everything is working fine, but then we need to have a long discussion on scenarios, for example, what to do if this happens, what to do if that happens. And there is no very consistent way of writing them. It always brings an issue when we want to translate those customer business needs and values to the team, to the main team who actually needs to implement them, right? When this happens, it's not easy to translate it. Avoiding, I meant something else. This is something that we encounter in every personal life as well. It's just a simple miscommunication. When we understood something in a little bit different way than when the speaker actually meant. And this is not a rare case. So it has happened and it will always happen. There is no way to avoid it when the customer would say, I meant something else. What is important is to realize this as soon as possible during the project delivery. And a little bit of statistic at the end, the cost of fixing defects. This is also not very new, but sometimes it's good reminder to see when we find an issue, and it can be a bug, it can be a miscommunication, it can be a misunderstanding. When we are running the software in production, you see it could be 30, 100 times more expensive to fix it or to deal with that issue. So avoiding the issues or the misunderstandings at the beginning when we are doing a requirements architecture or the coding, it's obviously way more preferable. So those would be not a complete list because every project has other challenges like financial, but this is really looking at it from the quality assurance perspective. Now, how we actually tackle this? We didn't want to invent the wheel again and again and again. So that's why we looked into something called BDD. BDD, it's a well-known standard in the software development. The terminology says behavior-driven development, and it actually comes from something that is called TDD, which was test-driven development, but it tries to give more standard into how to do things. So BDD is nothing else than writing business scenarios using a common language. Common language, what is a common language? It's something that everybody in the project, not only the customer, not only the implementing team, but also a project manager or the boss of the project manager. If he reads the scenario, he should understand what is required, what is the business process that we want to implement. BDD also have a clear definition how the acceptance criteria should be written. So it's something that it's not discutable anymore. Once this is written, there should be no space for interpreting the acceptance criteria in different way. Some rules about those BDD scenarios that are always written before an implementation starts. Why is that important? If we start an implementation and it's not clear what we need to actually do, then there is a big risk of rework. Another very important item is that it's agreed with a customer, right? We want to collaborate. We want to include the customer. They are the owners of what they need, of what they require. So they need to be part of the building those scenarios together with us. And last but not least, once we have agreed the scenarios, once we have implemented them, they run as an automated test. And this brings us all the value that I have been talking about before. And then everything will feel together and we will have something that will ensure the maximum quality of the delivery. Now a little bit more, what is BDD? I have prepared this real life example that we can associate with. It's a coffee shop. Imagine you have a coffee shop owner and the bank told him, you can only accept the credit card payments if the customer buys coffee that costs more than $2. Right? And the coffee shop owner needs to translate this to maybe those software developers or to someone who needs to take care of the system. So he would start by creating scenarios. He would be writing what is expected. So I would start here with the given. So if the customer orders $5 of coffee and he tries to pay, I would expect that the coffee shop system will process the payment. Right? It's very simple. Everybody can understand what is required, what is the precondition, what is acceptance criteria. Same thing for an alternative scenario. So what if I pay $1 a coffee and I try to pay with my credit card? What do you expect? What everyone expects from the system? That the system will decline the payment. So those are the scenarios which are written in the way that everybody can understand and agree. And those will be eventually translated to an automated test. Now, to make it all standard, because standard is very, very important, because if we want to do something which is consistent across project, we need to have a standards. For BDD, one of the standard is a Gherkin language. Gherkin language is a syntax. It has keywords and way of writing things, which is very, very simple. Okay, this is not something that we would need 2 years of university to learn. It consists of features. Feature, it's a group of scenarios. Imagine that you, in your MES project or in your plant, you have different features. For example, order management, integration with SAP, integration with automation. So that would be a name of a feature. And every feature would have a number of scenarios. Scenario could be, as I showed before, but if we take, for example, an order management or SAP integration, it could be scenario is importing a new process order to a plant application. It can be updating a process order. Everything that business, which means customer, defines. And then every scenario will consist of a list of steps. At minimum, these 3. We have seen it in previous slide. So we would have given. Given it's nothing else than prerequisite or a current context of the system. Right? It could be I have an order already imported or I don't have the order already imported. Then we would have an action. When action could be an event or a user clicking a button. It can be a PLC changing a tag. Anything that we would like to test. And then the last but not least, it's then. And we have seen it as well in the previous example. Then it's nothing else than acceptance criteria. Something that we agree that should happen after an order has been imported. It should exist in database. It should be visible to a user. It should be having status ready. This is something that needs to be discussed and decided within the team, but not only GE, but also customers. All together, we decide what is expected before we start implementing. Now let's jump to a little bit more MES-oriented example. And we will talk about a feature, in this case, stock return. For those who doesn't know or are not familiar with stock return is when you have in a plant a material delivered to a machine. The machine would normally consume all the material, but in case it doesn't consume, you need to give it back to warehouse. So what I just said, this is typically what would be getting from the customer as the requirement, but it's not enough. In this case, we have tried to write it down in very simple scenario. The precondition in this case would be there is a material called bolts in line side inventory at the station machine 1. So we can here talk about a particular station that the customer is familiar with because that's what they need. They would tell us when a user opens a web interface, which means we need to have a screen, we need to have a permission model, and the user opens the inventory page. Again, it means that we should have an inventory page and selects the bolt. He can click the stock return button. For us, this is very, very good description of how the customer process looks like, because it tells us there is a UI. It's a user doing this functionality of stock return. And at the end, we will see what is expected. In this particular case, we expect that there will be a message sent to warehouse management. And the material will change the status. And we can have more. And maybe the forklift will come within 10 minutes. Another acceptance criteria that we need to validate during the project execution. All right, now let's stop with the slide and I will show you something real. So we will jump into the BDD demo and I will go to my environment. what I will do first, I will show you the typical testing. So now I'm a quality insurance person. I will follow my test scenario. So I will go very similar to the stock return functionality. I would go to the UI. I would go to the inventory. Here are my materials. If I run too fast, just stop me. I will go to details and I will click stock return. The system will ask, do you want to return the material? Yes. Now I'll see the material, it's gone. If I want to see that we have sent a message to the warehouse system, I will need to go to some other place and verify that. So it's a lot of repetitive stuff. If I need to do this every day, every time I do a change in the inventory or in the MES solution, there is a lot of trouble to do it repeatedly with no error. And I have also prepared the data for this. That took me some time. Now I will close this and I will jump into our scenarios that we have for the same what I have done, even more. So as I said before, we have scenarios. In this one, it talks about stock return. You can see that there are the steps. When user opens an MES UI, he navigates to a station, opens an inventory management. In this case, we are applying filters. We are also grouping the table by a column, so we can do the stock return on multiple lines. And then after this action, what is expected? The expected is that this is the storage unit, all the details of the material afterwards. So this is one scenario that I can just run. Now I'm going to run it. And it will do exactly as I have written in here. It will take some seconds to start up, but then you will see, and I will show you, I hope you can see me on the camera, that I'm not doing anything else, right? So I'm not touching the system. And the automated test will run. It will open the UI. It will prepare the data for the test, something that I had to do manually as well. I have slowed down this test a little bit just for you, otherwise it would be too fast to see in this session. So now it's going to navigate to inventory. It's going to filter what material I would like to stock return. It will do the grouping. And it will click the stock return button and confirm that this is the choice. And now it is going to verify that the material I have give back using this functionality is gone, that I still have other materials. So I didn't make a mistake and return something else, which is also a very important scenario, right? You want to make sure not only that something has happened, but also that something else hasn't happened. And at the end, it will show me that the test has run with no issues. You can see here on the top, today for this particular project, we have almost 800 tests. If we would want to run those 800 tests manually every time we do a change of the solution, I think it would take us 2 weeks at least. With this, we do it in maximum 1 hour. But what is really important, that writing those scenarios in this way, it's really difficult to have a miscommunication or misunderstanding of what is expected and what are the preconditions. So now this would be all from this little demo. Of course, we can show way more, but we have limited time, so I will just jump back to our slides and we can leave some time for questions.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Miroslav, for this overview and for the demo, like showcasing a real case example, like stock return. So thank you very much. So as usual, just a reminder that we have this survey if you want to take it to let us know how you like this presentation. You can also contact us. Please contact Cataldo. He will be very pleased to receive your request and share them with our colleagues. So it's contact cataldo.tarantini@ge.com. And now let's see if we have questions. So we have a couple. So first question is, which software are you using for automated testing? Is it integrated with GMES?
Yep. So what we use, it's a standard library, which is called SpecFlow for the UI testing. We have built already some the phrases that you saw, those scenarios. We have some for the G plant application MES software, but they are internal for now. And we run most of the tests are written in .NET for the technical part.
Okay, thank you. So another question may be related, certainly related. How do we run the tests of the scenarios automatically?
Yes, that's maybe a broader topic, but what we basically do every time there is a change in the code base or in the configuration, we have something that is called continuous integration setup that would trigger all those tests. Taking the change, of course, we would take the change, it would trigger all those tests on the specific environment, and it would automatically run them and give us the feedback at the end of the run. So we would know if any particular change would break or had not break any functionality. And only if we have all the tests automatically run, then that's the moment then we can actually deliver that change or that particular feature to the customer.
Okay. One other question, who is responsible in a project team to work on those scenarios?
Yes, so typically in our project composition, we would have a solution owner for a big project or a technical lead for a smaller project or multiple technical leads. And they would be going through those scenarios or creating them together with the customer. So on the customer side, depends on the feature. It would be the business owner or a business responsible for let's say integration with SAP. There would be one person. It doesn't have to be one person for the whole project. But on our side, it's the solution owner in professional services.
Yeah, thank you. And I've pasted a link to know more about the professional services team at GE in the chat. So we are at time. I don't know if we have time for one last question. Let's try to do it quickly. Can this test be created and run in a QA environment independently?
Yeah, of course. Once they are created, it doesn't mean that they have to run only on G environment. So this is also a way for a customer to build their own scenarios independently on G, because we can provide the library of the phrases that you have seen, for example, clicking or opening the UI. And this same thing can be done by just composing those scenarios or those phrases by customer without any need of coding. So they can build their own scenarios independently. So we can do that.
Okay, so I see two more questions. Just to remind you quickly, if you can't stay, that we will share this recording by email. And let's go for the two last questions. Given that the project will require a certain solution around gas-powered solutions, can the software run a scenario where it would give the requirement of gas flow or acceptable flow rate to qualify a project?
Yeah, I'm not sure what that exactly means, but this is really a generic solution. It's not specific to any industry. This is more a methodology. Of course, when we have an integration with some other system like SAP or Historian, the inputs for the test needs to be simulated in the safe environment, or they need to be they would need to be done in the way that they can be consistently repeatable. Right? This is the value of the test itself, when we can run what I have shown every time, every single day in the year with the same input and the same output. So for an integration, for example, if you would like to test how it behaves when the data goes through a Historian, then the test would be behaving as an Historian or as a third-party control system. So we would simulate it. So we make sure that in our border of what we are responsible for, everything works as expected. Then, of course, we can't manage the external system to inside the project. Yes.
Okay, so we have more question coming, so we'll stay online with you.
Yeah.
What is the difference between a scenario and a user story?
Yeah, it's very, very similar, but user story, it's typically a little bit more high level. In the scenario, as I shown in the demo presentation, we would use parameters, for example, the real material name, the real machine name. So it would really respect what is happening in this case in the real plant, with the exact equipment model, with the exact material, with the exact group of user. Whether the user story, it's more a little bit high level description of this is what we would like to, but the scenario would give you also the means of how we are going to do it. So it's a little bit more detailed. So it's in our project, it's an evolution from user story to a scenario or multiple scenarios. That's something that typically happen.
Great. And one last question, so I hope I will read it well. You have EBR MES solution? Question mark.
EBR?
EBR MES solution, or maybe we can, if you can
have a look at the question. If it's electronic batch recording, it might be electronic batch recording. I think that's more a question for our sales department, because I'm not sure if we have I mean, plant application itself does an electronic batch recording. That's what it's used for. But normally it would be with capital E, so I'm not sure. Yeah, electronic batch record.
We will answer this question offline then.
Yeah.
I see more questions coming, but
again, this is not a GE invented. Sorry, Magali. This is not a GE invented standard. This is really universal global way of tackling those challenges that I have been talking about, and they can be applied to anything that has to do with software development.
Right. So great participation. Thank you very much. And I see answers in the chat, questions in the chat, but we will have to leave you now. As said, you will receive the recording by email. So we hope this presentation was helpful and inspiring for your organization. Thank you very much, Miroslav, for this presentation. Feel free to reach out to our colleague Cataldo if you have more questions, and we'll continue some conversation offline as well. And we hope to see you in the next Coffee with Experts. Thank you.